Hello, today we're going to talk about how to advertise a job vacancy. This is a really skilled job and a lot of employers don't give enough thought to the whole process. Quite often it turns out to be a cut and paste from a job specification in all the usual places, whether you're advertising for a receptionist or an IT professional or a finance director. So a lot of thought needs to be given to ensure that you are visible, but also that you get the right application. So a common grumble when advertising a job vacancy is, I got a load of old rubbish. Lots of people applied who were not appropriate. Now, you're always going to get a degree of that, but you can dramatically reduce inappropriate applications, trust me, but the onus is down to you. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. So number one, the first thing to understand is where you need to advertise, and this will vary according to what sort of job you're advertising. So just because you use one or two job boards for your receptionists, for your administrators, it does not mean that that is the best place to advertise some of your other roles. If you've got a role that's quite niche, IT is a good example, senior finance, another, you need to really think about where those people hang out. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're spending time and money in an area where you're not really going to reach your market. So you really need to have a think about that. And there's a very good chance that you don't know the answer unless you specialise in that particular area. It's worth doing a little bit of research, and that's not difficult, in fact. It just requires a little bit of forethought. So what I would do is I would start, if I didn't have a clue, if I had a job vacancy in front of me and it was something a little bit special, a bit different or very specialised, and I was working in-house, I would go onto Google and I would go and find out where those job vacancies are, or ask the people in the department. One of the first jobs I filled when I set up Clarity Appointments was actually an IT vacancy, and I'd never hired people in IT, but I filled 2 IT jobs. And I did that by simply walking over to the IT department and I said, guys, if you were looking for a job, where would you look? And they gave me the name of 2 job boards. So I went, that's where I advertised, and I filled the job successfully. That is not only spending money and time wisely, but you'll see that that ensures that you're most likely to get quality applications. So that's critical. Number 2, job title. Large organisations in particular, but they're not alone, have a habit of having job titles that they've just created in-house. And sometimes as a recruiter, external recruiter, we're given job vacancies and you look at the job title and you think, what on earth is that? And you have to kind of decipher it, read through the job specification and get, right, okay, that's an X. If your job title is something that's perhaps a little bit of an internal language that you use, perhaps you need to think about what that job title would be to an external applicant. Years ago, for example, if I was looking for a purchase ledger clerk within a finance team, I would have a think about if I had a job vacancy from a client and they used the terms accounts payable, for example, which is still a regularly used term, but American companies in particular might use accounts payable over purchase ledger clerk, and it's not a highly skilled role. Yes, it requires someone who knows what they're doing and is numerate and very good at detail, but it's not highly skilled. And I might be missing out attracting somebody who doesn't know what accounts payable is, even though they've been doing it for the last 5 years, because they were taught in-house. They know themselves as a purchase ledger clerk and they don't understand the other terminology. So really think about what sort of person's going to be applying and where, and will they understand the job title? Because that's the first place to start when a job seeker is looking for a role. They're looking for something that's familiar, that's known to them. The third thing, what to include. So we're in 2021 as I video this, and remote working, for example, has become commonplace. So if you intend for the job to be remote working partially or initially, or for the foreseeable future. That needs to be crystal clear in your advertising, because you'll find now that there's a great assumption from job seekers that the job is just remote working, because everybody's remote working, aren't they? That's not necessarily the case. So be really explicit in the job some of the key factors that that person needs to have. If it's a job where they'll be visiting clients and they need to be able to drive, they might not need a car, they might have access to a pool car, for example, but they will need to drive. So it needs to be really clear that it's important that person has a driving licence, maybe a clean driving licence. So think about the things that are essential to that particular role, and that the job seeker will need to understand before applying. This is a biggie, can't be covered in one video, but how the advert is written. Very frequently, in-house recruiters and in fact recruitment agencies will spend a lot of time in the first paragraph or two talking about the organisation. We're this, we're that, my client's this, my client's that. You're not talking to the person that's reading the job advert. The person that's reading the job advert wants to know what's in it for them. What is this job? Talk to the person that's applying. Don't talk about yourself. Don't talk about your organisation. Do that far lower down. There's a place to do it, but it is not in the first paragraph or two. That's the first part of the advert I can see before I click sometimes to reveal more information, and I want to be sucked in. That's just for me. Then I'm more likely to read through the entire advert, again reducing the number of inappropriate applications that you have. Using that style, I've also had people apply for roles who have actually applied for my job, yet they've seen the advert, the same job somewhere else, and they did not click apply. They clicked apply on my advert because, in their words, it spoke to me. And then the last tip I'm going to give you is consider a professional doing it. If this is not something that you're comfortable with, don't have time to do, and you need to do well, you need to do cost effectively, and you need to attract the right caliber of person, consider talking to an external person. Recruitment agencies these days are offering various services, and it goes way beyond the whole start to finish recruitment process. You might find by talking to your agency that they will actually put a special package together for you, have a look at what it is you're looking for, and do a lot of this groundwork for you. Write the advert, put it in the places it needs to be, and do it really cost effectively. We buy huge numbers of credits in a year with job boards, so we get them at a much cheaper price than you do. So it might be that you pay the same, but actually what you're getting is above and beyond the cost of the actual placement on a job board. You'll get all the other stuff, including the writing of an appropriate job advert. And it might even be that that agency will then shortlist for you, for example. So do consider, be honest with yourself. Have I got the time? Have I got the skill? Or is it worth just picking the phone up, no obligation, to somebody externally who can guide me? A lot of us will give you guidance without any money changing hands. Just ask, and we're here to help. I hope that's been helpful.